All right, we've beaten the British twice, and also think about this. America is a relatively isolated country. Why is America a relatively isolated country?
It's not connected.
You got a big old fat ocean on the east, and you got a big old fat ocean on the west, right? And what we're going to start seeing in the next 10 years is America taking some real risks internationally because they know it's becoming harder for European nations to do much about what they want. I mean, think about this. We're going to put down the Monroe Doctrine really with basically no real Navy. And we're going to make threats to European nations. They're going to deal with it. So we come out of this with a new sense of moxie. Americans are going to be much more aggressive internationally. We've already beaten the British twice, feel good about ourselves, and we are going to be more assertive internationally because of this. You can notice that America tends to be less assertive after we have some international defeats, right? But after we have we get some W's in our column, all of a sudden now we can be a little more chesty. You know what that means, chesty? You stick your chest out, you think you're awesome. I always see young walking down the hall like this. Yeah. Do what? Or like Mick Jagger when he starts dancing. Alright. Or a T-Rex. My arms are like a T-Rex. I have the shortest arms in history. Right, like a Cabbage Patch Doll. Alright. Let's talk about America's sense of nationalism. Why are we feeling this new sense of nationalism? What's going on to make us feel good about America?
We won a war.
First of all, we just won a war. We're 2-0. To be fair, the 2 wins we got, one of them basically was France doing a huge portion of the work. And the War of 1812, we kind of won just because, the Battle of New Orleans is sort of like we hit a last-second shot. But we're still 2-0. Still got this. You win by hitting the net and it dribbles over, but it still counts, doesn't it? In the win column. That's good. Right, your Viking by behind you falls over, but you still won, didn't you? All right. Number 1, the Federalist Party. Number 2, that was number 1. Number 2, the Federalist Party is dying out. So what's this mean in terms of party animosity? It's beginning to dissolve just for a small portion of time. By the way, a very small portion of time. And so you're seeing, just for a small portion of time, a little bit less sectionalism. And with the Federalist Party beginning to dissolve, when it comes to national leaders, do you think most of our national leaders are going to be more pro-states' rights or pro-central government?
Pro-states' rights.
Why would you say, Harley, they're going to be more pro-states' rights? Because you're correct. I can't hear you. I've got voice wires. I still can't hear you.
Because they're anti-federalist.
Who's anti-federalist?
The party is not anti-federalist.
The Democrat Republicans, right? The Jeffersonians are anti-federalists and they're pro-states' rights. Come on. Don't be scared to say it out loud, Harley. Alright? Another thing. We are now economically less dependent on Europe. Thanks to what? The Embargo Act, right? Thanks to the Embargo Act, it has had us, we are now trading again with Britain and France after the war. But thanks to the Embargo Act, America is starting to manufacture a little bit more on its own. And we'll see this really pick up steam in the 1820s, especially the 1830s. And the last one, we've got this, we're done with the War of 1812. We got all this land. What are Americans going to start doing? Looking left, right? Trucking right. Trucking left. Looking left. Looking left, going right. That doesn't make any sense. I think sometimes I just say words and hope they work out, but oftentimes they don't. Like one time I was with Kelly and I said, "You want to marry me?" And I was like, "Crap." I wasn't thinking about that. Ask her if she wanted to get a bite to eat. Alright. Alright, let's talk about Henry Clay's American system. This is a gigantor deal. Henry Clay's becoming increasingly more important. He's becoming Speaker of the House. Became Speaker of the House. Not becoming, he's dead. And he proposes something that he's going to be called the American system. And this is his plan to move America forward. Alright? And there are 3 components of the American system. Ironically, one of the reasons, even though America was more pro-states' rights, Henry Clay was actually more of a pro-federal guy. Like, he represented the West. Let's stop for a second and try to understand why somebody who would be considered from the West, and again, why was Kentucky considered the West? Yeah, because by 1816, this is still the West. Quick question, does anyone know what the first university ever west of the Allegheny Mountains was? First college that was ever established this way. It was Transy. I don't know if you knew that or not. We're pretty much going to start seeing Transylvania on every one of your outlines for the next couple months. Does anyone know who was a professor at Transy? Is that the law school there? Henry Clay, right. And who was the person who chartered Transy? What was his name? He had red hair, real tall, wrote something kind of important. Thomas Jefferson! It's an interesting legacy. 16th oldest school in the country. In case anybody wants.
Isn't Henry Clay from Kentucky?
Nothing gets by you, Bailey. All right. Isn't Kentucky a state? All right. So Henry Clay is a Westerner. Why will Westerners oftentimes have a pretty soft spot in their heart for the federal government? Think about it, because it makes a lot of sense.
Because they received land from them?
Yeah, the federal government is getting, the Western states are getting most of their stuff from the federal government. The federal government is organizing and making them a state. These are young states, and they oftentimes rely on federal help because these states don't have a lot of people, they don't have a lot of development. States can't do all of it, so who are they going to rely on to build infrastructure? Federal government. So Henry Clay is going to be more of a pro-federal government guy. And in his his American system, there are three main parts to it. Number one, he wants to have the second national bank. The first bus, which we talked about before, each bus has a 20-year tenure to it. Most laws have time frames on them, and they're usually just, redone every couple of years or every, 10 or 15 years. The bus, he wanted to redo the bus, right? He wanted a second bus. And this passed. In fact, the bus had gone away during the War of 1812, and it caused a lot of financial problems, and now, back by 1816, we have a new bus. One of the problems, all right, there are two types of banks that we're going to talk about, right? You have the bus, which is regulated by what form of government, federal or state? Federal, right? The Bank of the United States, right? And every states and areas have a bus. It's not just one giant building in Washington, D.C., right? States and areas have buses, and they're federally run. But there are also, especially in the frontier, these things that are nicknamed pet banks. Sometimes they're called wildcat banks. And they are set up out on the frontier. They're state-run. And they're not nearly as stable, right? And because people can put money in, right? Poorer people put money in, and poorer people can take money out. What's the problem when poor people put their money in and poor people take their money out?
Poor people don't have money.
Poor people are going to have a hard time paying things back, right? So when they can't pay back loans, what happens to the bank? It fails, and what's take with it when it fails? Everybody's money, right? Which is why you have a lot of poor people at this time really not trusting banks. I'll bet that you have great-grandparents who are like 80 and 90 years old who don't particularly love banks. Talk to your parents about their grandparents that grew up during the Depression that don't trust banks and keep large amounts of cash. Have you noticed that your great-grandparents, if they're still alive, your grandparents, keep a bunch of cash on them and don't use like debit cards or credit cards or something? They're scared to death of credit, and a lot of this is because of banking issues. My grandmother walks around like she's a freaking mobster with all of her money. Yeah.
My granny, because she was born during the Depression, she hoarded things. They were just like small things like pennies and stuff like that, but she would hoard stuff all the time.
And you used to see people like have they would dig holes and put cans of money in places in case things went bad. They would have money to get to. So these wildcat banks is what Henry Clay's trying not to have our country do because it's not safe, right? It loses people money. So we got the bank. So number two is the tariff of 1816, all right? This is going to be the first ever, it is the first what we call protectionist tariff. And it is really important for us to understand tariffs because we are going to be tariff heavy for for the next 2 months of this class. Lots of tariffs.
What did you say?
Hannah can tell you there's lots of tariffs, aren't there?
It's
It's the pits.
What was the tariff called?
The tariff of 1816. That's right there on your paper. Alright, let's talk about what a protectionist tariff is. Who is being protected by a... First of all, what's a tariff?
The tax agency.
It's a tax on imported goods, right? It's a tax on goods coming into a country. Who is protected by tariffs? Manufacturers are. Does that understand why? I'll give you a little thing, so please make sure you watch. Let's say there's 2 countries, United States and Britain. Alright? And let's say both of them make shoes. Alright? They're both making shoes. In America, let's say the shoes cost 120 bucks, or 120 bucks, let's say 120 bucks, and in Britain, they can sell the shoes to us for $100. And let's say, for our argument's sake, that both of them are basically the same pair of shoes, alright? So you can buy the British shoes for $100, you can buy the American shoes for $120. Which one are you going to buy as a consumer? You're buying the British shoes, right? Why are you buying the British shoes?
Because they're cheaper.
Because they're cheaper. Assuming they have relative quality the same, you're buying the cheaper shoes. So what American government might do to protect American industries, because American shoemakers are going to have a hard time competing. Does that make sense? So they'll put a tariff on. They'll put a tariff on British shoes. And let's say they put a 25% tariff on British shoes. Now, British shoes aren't $100. What are we going to be able to buy British shoes for? $125. Now, before we go any faster, which one are you going to buy, American or British?
American.
You're buying American now. But now put yourself in the mind of an American company. What are you going to sell your shoes for?
higher.
Higher.
What are you selling for, JC? I'll sell for $124.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to buy, American shoes or British shoes?
Still American.
Still
American shoes, but they're going to drain it out of you. So what's happening is 2 things happen with tariffs. Number 1, it's protecting industry, and it's also doing what to prices?
Raising.
Raising prices. So your prices are being raised, and you're protecting American industry. Now, if you're Britain, what do you do to America?
You tariff theirs.
To tariff, right? You just made tariff into a verb, but yes, you tariff them. What do we call somebody if they've been tariffed? Right? If America puts a tariff on Britain, and Britain puts a tariff on America, we call this a tariff off. Right? A retaliatory tariff. Alright? And we're going to start seeing retaliatory tariffs happen. This tariff of 1816 was the first protective tariff, and it was on many goods coming into America, and it was between 20 and 25%. Obviously, you have to memorize what percentage these tariffs are. But it is important to know that these are tariffs protecting American business. Now, why does it make sense, based on what I've told you about Clay, that he would be protecting American businesses?
Because businesses run the country.
It sort of sounds like he is sort of like the son, he's a Westerner, but he has some Federalist ideas, right? The Federalists tend to favor small farms or manufacturing. Manufacturing, and he wants to favor manufacturing. And this is going to put him at odds with the South. Okay? So he wants the bus, and who hated the bus?
South.
Jeffersonian Southerners, poor people specifically. If you are a Southern poor person, why don't you like tariffs? There are 2 reasons you don't like tariffs. In fact, they both hit you. It's a double whammy. Think about this for a second. Everyone think. Why would a Southerner hate tariffs?
Because they export and import goods.
Okay, so number 1, if you're a Southerner, you're having to pay higher prices, which sucks, right? No one wants to pay higher prices. And number 2, if you're a Southerner and you make things like cotton or tobacco, who are you selling a lot of that cotton and tobacco to?
British.
England. Well, what is England going to do to you? They're going to tariff you, right? So what's going to happen is the amount of your goods going over to Britain. It's going to be reduced. So you're going to have to pay higher prices at home, and you're going to make less money in your job. Does that make sense? So South is going to become more anti-tariff, the North more pro-tariff. Ironically speaking, John Calhoun was Southerner and originally went along with this tariff, and Webster, who was a Northerner, originally went against this tariff. Although, after a few years, they will line up, and the North will be markedly pro-tariff, and the South will be markedly anti-tariff. In fact, some of the biggest things that's going to tear our country apart are going to be tariffs. Because it really affects us. JCI.
So